Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello and welcome to episode 299 of the AFTN podcast. I am one-star target man Joe Deasy. I'm joined by Vancouver sweetheart Nicholas Ruprecht.
Hey, how's it going?
And the prodigal son returns, it's Gideon Hill.
Hello, guys. Welcome back, Nick. It is true. You're the sweetheart of Vancouver. Well, that was a great pickup line.
Opening question, guys. If you were to play out the plot of the box office movie Inception, and Carl Robinson was the subject, what phrase would you plant in the Welshman's mind, Nick?
Win every game.
Win every game. I don't know if he has absolute control over that, but sure.
Well, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. There's no reason not to go for it now.
Gideon, what would you plant into Robbo's mind?
I would instill into his mind, take more shots. At this point of the season, you need goals. Goalkeepers will be nervous because they want to hold that perfect or their good record. For rebounds will be popping out like shoulder left, right, and center. You got to put it in the back of the net.
Gideon, you might be onto something because I saw a tweet today that said he was talking at practice to the players about chances in the last 20 yards. So maybe your thought process has seeped through to the Welshman. I would say TSN is good.
Oof.
Yeah, a slight dig, but he won't know because it'll be just in his subconscious, right? All right, let's go to part one of the show. Complete the sentences. Blank is making a case to be a key player next season. Nick?
Well, I would say Tybert is making a case to be a key player next season.
Gideon, who's making a case to be a key player next season?
I said the exact same thing.
Really? Wow. I'm going to go for Nerwinski is making a case to be a key player next season.
Okay, yeah. Like, Franklin hasn't played a whole lot lately as they kind of rotated in the season. You've kind of seen Nerwinski out there a lot more, which is good for him.
I think it's fair to say Nerwinski's won that kind of
this
battle.
year,
yeah. The Caps will get blank points from a possible 18 down the stretch. Gideon, how many points?
I think they'll get 10 points in the possible 18.
Okay, I actually had the same number.
I also had the same number.
Wow. That's more optimistic because 9 is right down the middle, so we all had 9 plus 1.
Yeah.
There's got to be a draw.
The preview show is all about optimism, so that's good. The Caps will blank to FC Dallas, Nick.
Oh, the tie to
FC Gideon?
I said they will defeat FC Dallas. I just threw away the 2 because I couldn't think of something.
That's not allowed, so you're disqualified, but I'm just kidding. The Caps will lose to FC Dallas. There, I said it. Let's just jump straight into Dallas, shall we, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas are having a great season. They're second in the West, and they're just 1 point behind Sporting Kansas City. Gideon, it's about right? Their position on the table?
Yeah, and I think they've done a great job since Diaz is gone. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But, they've kept their good defensive prowess from last year. Their attack going forward hasn't been static, but it's been pretty even across the board. They haven't scored a ton. They haven't given up a ton, so they're just a solid team overall.
Yeah, they've been really impressive, and it shows in the standings, Nick, right? Like Kansas are probably
Kansas
the best team.
Are, I would say, definitely the best team out west for sure this season, along with LAFC, perhaps. And I think that they have been able to, like Gideon was hinting at, they've been able to get the good turnover happening. When they lost Diaz, they didn't totally lose the plot of the season, which one might think if you lose your main chance creator.
Yeah. And their goal difference is quite impressive. I know we don't have a great goal difference to work with in the team we support, but plus 20, Gideon. That's really good.
Yeah, and from the fan standpoint, that's a good number, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint what has kind of made it that good, but at this point right now, it's good for them.
Yeah, and Nick, we've spoken in previous weeks about like the wobble, the FC Dallas wobble, right? Is this kind of the wobble that they're going through now? They've only won 2 of their last 6 games.
Really, only 2?
Yeah,
wow.
And
okay.
And a 0-0 draw in their last game against Columbus. So
it's one of those things where maybe they're searching for their footing, perhaps, because I know they've gotten in some new transfers recently-ish, and I think Oscar Pereira does a really good job of like rotating the team as well. And I think that might actually contribute maybe to that wobble.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, some of it is forced rotation, but he does give his youngsters a lot of chances too. So,
but then there's players like Minor Figueroa who just seem to have always been there, right? Like just reliable players.
Matt Hedges.
Yeah. Ulloa in the midfield is another one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have... their attacking has been fantastic this season. Lama has had a great season. I think he might be out injured because he hasn't played in over a month. But 8 goals and 5 assists, but they do spread out the goals quite well. Gideon, who would you pinpoint as your danger man on that team?
As much as I want to say Mosquera, I think it'll be Barrios going down the right against probably either Levi's or DeYoung. DeYoung hasn't played in a little bit, so probably will be Levi's, but he's such a good player. He's been around for a couple of years. He was a very shrewd signing as well. You see players like those now could be DP-worthy players, but Dallas has done a good job of evening out their money and haven't spent a whole lot on certain players. They have 3 DPs, but they're all even players that aren't worth a whole lot, and they've kind of spread out the money in that sense. But I think Barrios will do some damage on Sunday. Yeah,
they have Nick. They have Barrios. They have Mosquera, as Gideon says, who has 3 goals in his last 3 games. Urusi is there, the former Portland player.
But I think I made a note, he's playing more he's playing way deeper than he usually plays. Like he usually played as a forward, but for the last couple of games, he's been playing as their number 10, kind of as their play. He's kind of trying to play as a playmaker, but I don't think it is necessarily in him to be their main guy. Yeah,
in their 4-2-3-1, they can interchange a lot in those attacking positions, right? So like Barrios, Lama, it could be, I don't know, like you said, Urusi dropping back. Like it's just very fluid, right? And a lot of those players have pace, which means on the counterattack, you don't necessarily care about what position you are. You just go for the gaps.
Yeah.
And which is really, really scary. Gideon, a Canadian interest. Tesho Akindele, he's been on the bench for most of the season. And probably now that they traded for Dominic Badji, he's going to stay there probably, right?
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing to see. Akindele was a good player. He's with the Canadian national team. He's a tall striker. He gets on the end of balls over the top really well. He's got a good strike on him as well. Just unfortunate to see him on the bench, but I mean, credit to Dallas. They have lots of forward depth this year, probably one of the better depth positions in the league at forward, but I think just unfortunately for Akindele, he's done well. I think he set 2 goals this year as well for him. So,
yeah,
I mean, he can still score off the bench, but unfortunately for him, he should be starting a lot more.
I think when I checked earlier, he made 15 appearances off the bench. So that strikes me as a game plan kind of a thing, more than anything else.
I mean, but he's done really well with those limited minutes.
Yeah,
I think.
And like he's found stability in that kind of a team, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't happy being a bench player. If he went to any other MLS team, surely he would be pushing to be the starter, right?
Depends on the MLS team.
Well, if he came to Vancouver in a post Kai Kamara era where we need a target man, I could see him being quite successful.
Yeah, I 100% think he would be starting pretty much every game.
And now that Badgie has caught fire, I know he caught fire in Colorado, and he's still adapting to life in Dallas. Maybe if he really is the real deal, then Tesho's not going to get a look in if he can only play a striker in a 4-2-3-1, right?
But Akindele has played on the wing as well before. He's no stranger to playing out wider.
Yeah.
So I think
Badgie can play there too as well.
Yeah, that's true as well.
That's a good point. And who knows? Maybe Oscar Pareja's next phase is a different formation, and he needs two strikers. Let's talk. We touched on Dominic Badgie there, and he got traded from Colorado for Kellen Acosta. Right. When I saw that trade, I thought that Colorado came off way better than Dallas did. Nick, what did you think of the trade?
I think it was actually a good trade for both sides.
It's worked out to be a good trade for both sides, I think. I think at the time I thought it was pretty okay for both sides because Kellen Acosta at that time, he wasn't getting any playing time. The midfield in Dallas at that point in time was pretty stacked. Now I think he's playing more of a number 10. Yeah, he had those two
role.
Ridiculous goals on his first two games for Colorado.
And I think he's gone to a team where he gets to be the main guy. Mm-hmm. And especially for someone who's trying to become a U.S. men's team consistent starter, I think that's a great move for him. And I think Badgie as well, he's moved to a more competitive team where he should get more service.
Oh, 100%.
But then it goes back to the flip side of in Colorado, he was the guy who was getting all the service and there was no one to support him. So he kind of got all the goals.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at Dallas, like we were saying earlier, they're more interchangeable. They're more fluid. So you're probably not going to actually get as many individual goals, but you probably will be on a more successful team. So
Gideon, like Nick said, Acosta is trying to break into the men's national team. I think he was there in that last round of friendlies that they had, where they had some more experimental lineups. But like for the Dallas fan base, trading away someone who is potentially, a national team starter for one of the top, 50, 40 teams in the world, like it's something similar that the Vancouver fans felt when they traded away Tim Parker, who is also a part of that group right now. There's kind of some parallels there. But Gideon, do you think the Dallas fans would mind that trade? Like they get a functional MLS striker who has bloomed in this league for, a position that they're already stacked at, as Nick was saying.
Yeah, and I think for Dallas fans, it's kind of a win-loss situation. You lose a young Acosta who is a fantastic center midfielder. He's played right back a little bit as well, I believe. And again, as you said, a national team guy who's probably going to bloom and progress throughout the next few years on the national team cycle. But the win situation for them is that they have a fantastic team anyways in the midfield. We mentioned Gruezo, Ulloa. There's no real room for Acosta either way. And him going to Colorado also kind of sees his career grow a little bit. And in getting Badgie, already a depth striker position, as I mentioned, for FC Dallas. But getting Badgie just adds that different dynamic, either off the bench or on the wing or up front as well with that speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one other thing to mention just onto that is FC Dallas Academy. They've been producing very good players.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if there is another player that they're going to have come up through into their midfield area as well and add in more competition.
Yeah. Dallas tied their last game 0-0, as I said earlier. They were outshot 17-9. It was against Columbus, who are high flying as well. But is this my wishful thinking, or are Dallas trending down a little bit? What do you think?
I feel like maybe they're trending down, but this is probably going to be a down before an up. Like I think maybe they're hitting the apex of their downward
peaking
curve.
at the right time. Gideon, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, fair to both sides, Columbus and FC Dallas have been fantastic this year, but you have to feel like at home at this point in the year with points on the line for top spot, you have to feel like Dallas should have won that game. But again, like you said, Columbus, has been fantastic with picked up Miriam again, and they've just been good. So a good draw for Columbus, but FC Dallas probably felt like they should have won that game.
Their playoff place seems pretty safe. Like Dallas, they're 10 points ahead of Vancouver, who are the closest challengers to get into the playoffs. Like I know there's a possible 18 points left for all these teams, blah blah blah. But like, you want Vancouver to win 4 of their last 6, and Dallas to lose every single one of their that's not going to really happen. Like then it gets into how much do teams want that home playoff game or that extra? You don't have that midweek, like one-off game. Yeah, I could it's too early to know if they are trending down or trending up, I guess. But as long as they trend up at the right times, no one's going to care, right?
Yeah.
We discussed their midfield. It's really solid. We haven't really talked too much about the defensive pairing, which was Ulloa and Guerezo. Just so consistent and reliable, and they don't lose the ball and they can win the ball back too, right, Nick?
Yeah, and also they both are actually, I think, a little bit underrated in terms of their passing as well, and also picking their times to get forward, because Ulloa has gone forward a couple of times and scored some really nice goals, finishing off some good counter moves.
Gideon, what stands out for those two for you?
I think stature. From what I've garnered, Ulloa and Guerezo are smaller players, especially Guerezo, and that sometimes surprising for the role they play. But again, you look at Tiber and how much success he has as a shorter guy in the middle of the field, winning balls back, kind of like a bulldog, running around, going at guys, getting the ball away from strikers, and that kind of stands out for Ulloa and Guerezo as the guys that are smaller in stature, but certainly don't lack in their tenacity on the ball.
I think the age of smaller bigger midfielders is kind of coming to an end, isn't it? Like, if you think of the best defensive midfielder in the world, it's N'Golo Kante, and he's tiny, right? Like it's about reading the game now. Not necessarily like physicality is a plus for sure, but that's not all there is, right, Nick?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're not going to have any Roy Keane.
Roy Keane wasn't huge, but
he's big. He's a big enough guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think like soccer goes in cycles. A couple years back, 2-5-3, not a very interesting formation, and then suddenly, this year and last year, everybody's playing it, trying it out.
Yeah.
So I think
there's a fashion to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's kind of like the stock market, Yeah. Everybody notices somebody buying something and everybody gets on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Or everyone watches what Pep Guardiola does and then they try and copy it, I guess. Let's talk about their defenders now. We mentioned Matt Hedges, who, God, imagine having him with Waston in the back.
Yeah, that would be an amazing pairing. That would be the best pairing, I think, in MLS.
But they have Ziegler, Pedroso, Cannon. That's their most common pairing, I guess you could say. But it's hard to look past Hedges there, right?
Very good
solid,
presence, good head on his shoulders,
huge guy too.
Yeah.
Threat from set pieces. Gideon, what else can we expect from Hedges?
He's one of the most underrated center backs in the league. I mean, people have kind of noticed his climb the past couple of years and how much he's stood out, especially last year with Walker Zimmerman and Zimmerman now with LAFC, but they formed a really good partnership, and without Zimmerman, it's hard for a center back like Hedges to kind of form a bond with the new center back, as we've kind of seen with Waston this year without Parker. So he's done well to kind of adapt to different players like Ziegler, as you mentioned, Pedroso in there, Figueroa's played a little bit of center back. He's done very well, and they've kept that defensive stature going as well. And
yeah,
he's a great player on set pieces as well.
I like Figueroa at fullback a lot more than at center back. I know he can play there, but I think he's a lot better at left back. And behind back four, it's Jesse Gonzalez, the homegrown product, just 23 years old.
Yeah, I mean,
solid keeper.
That's in a sense what you want with your keeper. It doesn't cost too much, but can every once in a while save you some games.
Yeah.
A couple of other keepers around the league, like Andre Blake. I think he's pretty underappreciated.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think the goalkeeper that's on a DP contract, definitely doesn't deserve that DP contract.
Tim Howard? Yeah, definitely not. Gideon, will Jesse Gonzalez let Nico Mosqueda nutmeg him with the bicycle kick this time?
I don't think so.
Okay. How far are they going to go? What do we think?
How far?
I think MLS Cup final defeat is what's going to happen for them.
Oh, that's a good shout.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because when I started watching the Whitecaps, they always lost to Dallas, so I had this fear of FC Dallas. What do you think, Nick?
I think they'll make it to the Western Conference final.
Gideon?
I have watched their playoffs the last 2 or 3 years, especially the year that the Whitecaps made it against Portland, lost in 2015, and they haven't had the best time in the playoffs. They haven't made it to a Stanley Cup final.
Oh, they're like New York Red Bulls. They are good in the regular season, and for some reason can't get it done in the playoffs.
Garbage.
Yeah,
and that's why it's hard to kind of pinpoint what they're going to do in the postseason. I think they're going to make it to the Western Conference quarterfinals, regardless, because they have the berth anyways if they get first. So I think they won't make it past the Western Conference finals, but they'll have a tough time getting to the finals anyways.
Okay. Anything else we want to bring up on Dallas? I'm terrified, as I said. This is the classic game I don't want at this time of the season. They're just difficult to play against.
But I mean, you can argue that about the rest of the Whitecaps schedule. It's not a
scheduling gods just gift us this time of the year. Guys.
Yeah, why can't we play like Colorado twice and then LA?
We played San Jose twice.
Yeah,
okay,
that's true.
Let's play San Jose 3 times in the last 2 months of the year.
Okay, well, that was our FC Dallas analysis, and now it's time for this week's Do You Know Who I Am? Okay, guys, do you know who I am? I'm turning the computer screen away from Nick so he can't see my answers.
Okay.
I've started to do this weird thing where I change the game every week just to keep it interesting, because like
keep us on our toes.
The product on the field isn't fun in any way to watch. So might as well keep it interesting off the field, right? So
you have nothing else to do, Joe, besides make up games for a podcast.
I'm not going to comment on that, Gideon. But yeah, so what I've done this time is, here's my train of thought. Okay, football players or soccer players or whatever are always under a fierce amount of pressure, right? And they're followed by the media all the time, and then everyone says stupid things, right? So sometimes they get overheard saying stupid things. Who is another class of person that is under the same kind of pressure? And the answer is politicians. So what I've done is I've gotten some quotes, and you have to tell me, did a politician say it or did a football player say it? Okay, you have 5 each, I think, maybe 5. We'll start with Gideon, and if there isn't enough for everyone, Nick is going to get less chances because Gideon's missed a few shows.
Okay,
so he gets more points potentially. Okay, Gideon, are you ready for this? Let's get a pre-game interview.
I think so.
Okay, first quote. It's an unprecedented precedent. Was that a footballer or a politician?
I'm going to have to say politician.
It was a footballer. It was Clark Carlisle. So 0 for 1 for Gideon so far. Things are more like they are now than they ever have been. Gideon, politician or footballer?
Okay. Politician.
That was indeed a politician. It was President Gerald Ford, actually.
He likes nachos, I hear.
Facts are stupid things.
Footballer.
It was Ronald Reagan.
He would have made a great footballer, honestly.
Ronald Reagan.
They were
on his grave right now. About that one.
They were numerically outnumbered.
Footballer.
It was a footballer. It was Gary Brickles.
Did you alternate these questions, Joel?
Maybe I did. I can see the carrot at the end of the tunnel.
Footballer.
It was a footballer. So 3 out of 5 for Gideon. Not
That's
bad. Not bad at all. Nick, are you scared now? Or?
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared. Seems pretty difficult.
Yeah, I'm telling you, these people say things under pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go, Nick.
Just like we do sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
On the podcast.
If you closed your eyes, you couldn't tell the difference between the two sides.
I think that was a footballer.
It was a footballer. That was probably the easiest one of the whole bunch. Sorry. When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it.
That's definitely got to be a politician.
It was Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
His next his next sentence was, "I did not inhale." You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Oh, that's pretty. Oof.
Yeah.
That's
sounds like Trump.
This is a quote.
I'm gonna say that's a footballer.
That was Joe Biden.
Oh wow, that was Joe Biden. Okay.
Let's see, how many do I have left? I can never make predictions, and I never will.
Footballer.
It was Paul Gascoigne, and I think I would have made a really good pope.
Politician.
That was Richard Nixon. Nick was 5 for 5. Fantastic.
No way.
Four for 5.
4 for 5?
Because I missed the.
I wrote down how many you completed. Yeah, 4 for 5. But either way, you have beaten Gideon in this week's Do You Know Who I Am?
I'm getting better.
King-
I'm getting better.
King of the world. Okay, now here we go. Try and focus after that, guys. I know it was a high, but let's try and get back to talk about this mundane Whitecaps team. The players in interviews and things like that have talked about putting up a fight. There's so many points left on the season that we can fight for. All that, what I think is PR nonsense. Or does anyone have a different opinion?
I mean, it is a little bit of PR nonsense, but at the same time, it's also true because they have to fight for it. I mean, if you don't fight for it, there's still a chance they could get into the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's tenuous, isn't it?
Yeah,
Gideon?
obviously. Of course it's tenuous.
Gideon?
But you have to, fight for every penny.
Yeah. Gideon, what do you think?
I think it's kind of two-faced. In one sense, the PR are trying to put bumps in seats and get ticket sales. In another sense, the Whitecaps are 4 points behind with 6 games to go. I think it's doable, but it's going to be really, really difficult.
I think the thing that annoys me is just I don't think they'll do it.
You think they don't have the mentality?
Yeah, but I know that they have to say that they think they can do it. But I question how many of the players actually believe that they can do it.
Okay, well, put just for background, put these in your next 4 games in your head. They have Dallas on Sunday, LA Galaxy next Saturday, Toronto FC Saturday, October 6th, so 2 Saturdays from now, and then they have Sporting Kansas City at home on October 17th.
Yeah, those are the next 4 games, right?
And then at LAFC before hosting Portland for the last game of the year. Those are all going to be insanely difficult games.
So if everything goes to plan, we're going to have to go into a game against Sporting Kansas City and LA, and the odds are we'll need to not lose both, right? That's unless we win every game before that, right? And do we need to be reminded what Kansas did to us last time? I don't think so.
No.
It was pretty bad. If we had to assign a percentage, just a number off out of your gut, what is the percentage chance? I know Nick looks at the website that gives the actual percentage, but what do you think, Nick?
I would say 15%.
15. Gideon?
I'm going to say 20, just because 2 of the 6 teams they play that are left are out of the playoff spots. So that could be the 2 games they win, but you never know.
Okay, I'm going to say 10. I'm going to go lower. That last game just got me really, really, really down. MLS era matchups for the Whitecaps. Dallas is almost as tough as they come. It's only not until I know it's a home game, but it's only been in the last few years that we got more than a couple of points in Texas, right? But this is a home game. Gideon, can we expect something different?
Yeah, I think we've had some good form against Dallas the past few years at home. As you mentioned, away's been a different story. Let's not talk about that. But I think it's a game the Whitecaps need to win. They could win as well. Dallas is predominantly always good this time of year, as I mentioned earlier. But I think this is a winnable game for Vancouver.
Who has the momentum, Nick? Whitecaps are on a down, but Dallas
are also
on a down.
Going down. That's a good question. That's why I kind of think it was going to end in a tie. Because I think the Whitecaps have more motivation.
Mm-hmm. But Dallas would be happy with the draw.
But Dallas would be happy with the draw for sure.
I get we won't know what the implications are until after the game. So let's move on to more specific things about the match. Your ideal lineup. We'll break it down a little bit more. What positions of the field do you think can be influenced by squad selection, I guess is the right question. Gideon, let's start with you.
I think it starts for me in the middle of the pitch in the defensive midfield position. There's 5-6 guys that could be in there. Robbo's done a good job of choosing those players this year, and sometimes it hasn't gone so well. But I think it's gone not well more than it's gone well, personally.
I would agree with Joe's statement there.
Yeah, but so the 5 guys we're talking about, Gideon, are Tybert, Gazal, Juarez, Felipe, and is there one more?
Norman.
Oh, yeah. He's at Queen of the South.
Maybe Much?
Yeah, Much is a good shout. Who's your best 2? I think there's a consensus for that.
Gazal and Tybert.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you had to swap one for the other, who would it be? Like if a gun to your head and you had to change one of those guys out.
I think it'd have to be Tybert, just because Tavares' experience could come into play, but he just hasn't been good at all this year.
Okay.
So I think that would be a hard decision.
I would go Tybert for much. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, maybe depending on what I'm trying to do or how attacking I want to be, maybe I would put in Felipe.
Okay, let's
It's
put
tough
it.
to not have Felipe there as well, yeah.
But Felipe just hasn't clicked at all. Let's put it in the frame of this game. Then you're playing against these speedy, technical players who really know how to pick a pass, right? Gazal must start, right?
Yeah.
Beside him, to do a lot of running, I think you go with Tybert. Any disagreement there?
No.
No.
Yeah, so I think in this must-win game, which how many games now has it been that they've
Every
been
game.
must-win? Yeah, we should have a must-win game counter.
Yeah.
But I think you have to play those two in there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's useless if everyone else isn't on the same page. So in the attacking midfield, I think you need people who are more responsible. I think Reyna's back after his suspension now.
Yeah.
So thank God for that, because we really need him.
Yeah. No, you saw in that game where he wasn't there how the lack of creativity, the lack of the ability to pick a pass in the final third.
And the chemistry was just off.
And the chemistry, yeah, exactly. Runs were kind of awkward.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if he comes back in, I think hopefully that settles the forwards a little bit.
Yeah.
And they know they can get good service.
Yeah. And Gideon, who would you have on the wings? Davies, right?
Davies would 100% be in there.
Mm-hmm.
And hard to say. I mean, Teixeira.
Home game
I do
Teixeira.
like Teixeira. Home game Teixeira. Let's say home game Teixeira.
Yeah, it's been a running theme. So I think the midfield is probably been it's going to be the key area of this game, like where the game is going to be won and lost. So if I was Robbo, I would tell the players, go out there and just be physical, right? We know Gazal can be physical. Tybert isn't a pushover, but it's those players that are in front, beside, that really need to be able to muscle the ball and get the 50-50s and things like that. Like
or at least draw the foul.
Yeah, Dallas are not a possession team. Their average possession is less than 50%, right?
Yeah.
Just under. But they are very much about breaking out. But if you can
contain them,
and hold the midfield, then that's where you can probably play a more possession game or try something, be able to control the game at least, right, Gideon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think games are won and lost in the midfield, and that's going to be a key position that Vancouver wants to find any sort of success against a very difficult Dallas team.
Yeah. I've come up with something called, I've coined the Davies dilemma. And I didn't write an explanation on the running order, but here's my explanation for it. Alphonso Davies will not be with the Whitecaps next season. If that's news to you, you're in the wrong place.
Shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. But we have to plan for life after Davies.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't not play him because he is like a talent that the Whitecaps will not see for a long time. Like the likes of the Whitecaps will not see for a long time unless they're playing for other teams. But you also you're already over-reliant on him. So can you guys understand the dilemma aspect that Robbo might be in that regard?
So your question is, I guess to wrap it up, is you don't want to play this kid because next year I need people.
But then you can't not play him because he's a great player and you need results. Gideon, how would you approach it?
I think you have to play him regardless of the situation. You need to win these games down the stretch, and as good as he is in this young player, sometimes he needs rest. I think it's at this point of the season where you need to play him every game, have your best players on the field for 90 minutes.
But then next season I can already see the problem at the start of next season is that all the players have no idea what to do in attack, because what used to happen is Alphonso would dribble it through their midfield and then we'd figure out what to do at the edge of the box.
Well, it's hard to say what can happen next year because I think the guys that will replace Davies...
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. Yeah.
And honestly, I think as well, you're doing a little discredit to Reyna as well.
Yeah.
And the chance creation and that he brings to the field.
Yeah. I'm all about drama, Nick. So
I know.
I'm just trying to create drama. If you could pick one section or sector of the team that's been the biggest problem this year, what would it be? We talked about the midfield already, but let's kind of move away from that. Like fullbacks, striker. I think striker has been the problem because
I think it's not necessarily like a problem in terms of position,
Mm-hmm.
because on paper, most of these players are pretty good. I think maybe the question is the quality of your DPs, if that could be a
Okay.
position.
Okay.
DP question.
That's what I think it is. There's
Yeah.
no DP leader, per se, who you can use to, win a game.
Or like a figurehead, you mean? Or
Like a figurehead, exactly. Like, I don't feel like this team has a guy being like, yeah, that's the
well,
guy.
I think it's Waston, but we don't have one in attack.
Yeah,
If you-
okay, fair enough.
yeah.
Like, I don't, but I think that's totally true. Like, we definitely don't have a guy in attack. Maybe Davies, but again, he's leaving and he's not a DP.
Yeah. Gideon, would you agree with that, or do you have something different?
Yeah, I think in MLS, your DP has to be not always your best player, but a guy that contributes. And we haven't really seen that from Breck Shea. And I think you need to have your DPs your best players at this time of the year, and especially the last 2 months, they haven't really produced a whole lot. Kamara's been very good as well. He's been scoring goals, credit to him. But, I just don't think this team has enough to make the playoffs. But come in next year, they'll have a little bit more money, and I think they need to do something with that.
It's going to be a big transfer window, like for sure, in the off season.
Either players
I think
leaving
it'll
and
make or
coming.
break the season next year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can see that. Like how they use the Davies money will be
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, exactly. Not even that, just the way they turn over the team. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Let's,
that's a conversation for another day.
Let's get positive, like real quick. What do the Whitecaps do really well, Nick?
What do they do really well?
Set pieces they're not bad, right?
Yeah, it's not bad, but you said really well.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to well. Let's go to well.
I think they have been quite entertaining on the counterattack a number of times this season.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that they do quite well.
They're good at dealing with Bayern. They got a good transfer fee. Gideon,
Yeah.
what do you have?
I think the Whitecaps play well at home in certain games, depending on who they're playing, when it is. But when the games I've been to and watched sort of on TV, they've been fun to watch, and they've had some fun times as well. Defending the ball, Waston's made some huge clearances as well. He's gotten his head on the end of a couple crosses against New York, so that's been kind of fun to watch Waston this year tower above other opposition.
I haven't found the Whitecaps very fun to watch, but we have different tastes, Gideon, I guess. That's fine. If the 2018 Whitecaps played the 2013 Whitecaps, what would be the score? Just off the top of your head. Nick.
I think 1-0 2013 Whitecaps.
Really? 2013 Whitecaps? Oh my god.
With Jay DeMeritt coming back from his Achilles injury,
Yeah.
2013 Whitecaps.
Like a Omar Salgado coming off the bench. Let the nostalgia flow
I'm so glad we
through.
moved on from Salgado.
Yeah, I think it would be like
Was-
4-1 2018 Whitecaps.
Yeah, same. I was going to say 3-1,
Yeah.
With Camilo Sanveso striking.
Actually, yeah, Camilo.
Yeah, Camilo would.
He would run circles around Henry.
And they still had good Mane.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Good man. Well, Mane got better. If there was a coaching change in Vancouver, which a lot of people think there will be, as a city, as a club, with its stadium, with its history, how attractive of a proposition is it? Like, there's more attractive propositions in MLS, right? The star brands like the Galaxy and things like that. But like, what made me think of this question was when San Jose fired their coach this week. There was rumors of some big names like Peter Bosch, the former Ajax and Borussia Dortmund manager. That was a rumor. I'm not sure if it's true. Caleb Porter interviewed for the job. Like,
do you think Caleb Porter will interview for Whitecaps?
I was thinking that, but I don't know. Like, how attractive is it? That's the question, right?
I guess it comes down to how much people think the front office was meddling, perhaps, in transfers. Right?
Yeah. Sir Alex Ferguson always says, "Don't pick the club, pick the owner, or pick the chairman." He would say, like, you have to pick your boss, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Gideon, what do you think? Like, good stadium, good facilities.
Yeah, you have to weigh so many things coming in. You know, your family's another thing.
Yeah, it's a great place to live, Vancouver. So
Yeah, it is.
Expensive,
But
yeah.
as you mentioned, money's always an issue. The form from last year, how you see the team in your eyes, and how you can change them, like from where they are now. I mean, Vancouver's a great city to come and coach. It's just it'd be difficult for some people to come into this environment with the way the fan base has been the past couple of years and the way the team has kind of handled itself. In that sense, I think it's a tough place to come in regardless of how attractive it is.
And another issue is how much the coach is going to get paid, right? Like, what kind of a salary do you set aside for a coach?
I think that comes with any team, though, to be honest.
All this chat will be futile if the Whitecaps win the remaining 6 games. So let's just hope for that, and we'll deal.
So that's actually a good question, though. If they win the remaining 6 games and they go on a deeper playoff run, would you still bring them back?
For me, it would depend on how far they make it in the playoffs.
Okay.
If they get
what would your I'm bringing you back?
Oh God, I think you have to get to the conference final. Gideon, what about you?
Yeah. Oh, just save the coaching staff.
My logic was get further than you've ever been, and that would be
making the playoffs would be a great feat. But I think, as you said, making it to at least past the conference quarterfinals would be huge.
Okay, and Nick, you?
I would say
win the MLS.
Win the MLS Cup. Yeah, I would say why not? Like,
tell Robbo your contract is in the trophy. Go get the trophy.
It's in the trophy.
Exactly.
Get the trophy. It's there. No, but I think that, considering how long he's been here, how things have gone this year, do something fantastic to impress.
Win back the hearts and minds of the fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what better way than winning it all?
Yeah, true. Okay, that was kind of our more general game around FC Dallas and the state of the Whitecaps chat. But before we go on to the prediction game, Gideon, you were going to say some stuff about some local soccer that isn't the Whitecaps that people could go watch if they were interested.
UBC Thunderbirds men's soccer team, as well as the women's, they play this Friday and Saturday. The men play at 5 and the women play at 7, and on Saturday the men's team play at 7:30, the women's team at 5:30. Good soccer. UBC men's has had some good recruits, including former Whitecap Caleb Clark, as well as WFC2 player Mitch Rowe, Thomas Gardner as well. And I think I've been watching them all year. They've had a great year. I broadcast the team alongside Michael, who runs AFTN, and it's good soccer. Young players battling it out for maybe some CPL hopes next year, as well as SFU, undefeated on the year to start, and they won their last 2 games 6-0 and 5-0.
Mm-hmm. And
so again, soccer in the area.
A lot of CPL coaches have talked about the university scene and it being a potential recruiting grounds for them, right? It'll be fantastic. Okay, let's move on to the prediction game. I have not had time to tally up last week's predictions, but don't worry, I'm still in the lead. It's fine. All is good in the world. Yeah.
Sure.
Nick, let's get your three stats predictions for this weekend's game.
Predictions? I think Jesse Gonzalez will have 5 saves. 5 saves, okay. I think that Davies will get an assist.
Okay.
And I think... I think that Tybert will have an 86% pass completion.
You've had good luck with the percentages recently. I think you got like 2 in a row that were bang on. Gideon, what about you?
I think that Taisho Akindele will have a goal off the bench for FC Dallas, just because I love my Canadian players, and I think that'll probably be the close-out goal for FC Dallas. I think Stefan Vrinovich will make 4 saves, and I think the Caps will hold 33% possession. 33%
possession, wow. I'm going to go for Watson yellow card, because that is the reason I am top of the table right now.
You just have a house rule that Joe can't
play to win. Play to win. Yeah. I'm going to go Urusi will get a goal, because he used to play for Portland, so of course that's going to happen. And you know what? I think the possession for the Whitecaps will be more than 50%.
Ooh.
Which is a bold thing to state for the Whitecap. Yeah.
Hot take
hotline. That's the MLS podcast thing.
You're gonna phone in and berate Matt.
Yeah, maybe I'll keep tweeting at Matt. For those of you who didn't see, Matt Doyle liked some of my hate tweets to him this week. But anyway, that's for another podcast. Gideon and Nick, where can people find you online?
At Space Age Robot 56.
And Gideon?
At _ Gideon Hill on Twitter.
And you can find me at Joe DC Van. Just keep watching the Whitecaps. I've run out of motivational things to say. Like, it's just the same thing every week.
Bitter disappointment?
Yeah, it's kind of morbid, really. But anyway, yeah, it's okay. If they win this game and other teams lose their games,
you got hope.
We have hope.
There's hope. There's like I said, it's not that bad.
And episode 300 of the AFTN podcast is this weekend.
Congratulations to AFTN.
Yes.
Hard to think we've done 150 preview shows, isn't it?
Sure, Joe. Sure.
We don't need to mention that the preview shows only started this season. Thank you very much for listening to the AFTN podcast, and enjoy the game.
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.